Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1688. This watch is available from Pagani Design Fashion Store on AliExpress for $122. Alternatively, if you'd prefer to purchase the watch on Amazon.com, it's also available from Fashion Sports Watch for $130. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this familiar Pagani Design cardboard watch box, and inside the watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only $122. With regards to the other items, this is the plastic guarantee card, and I'm pleased to report that the PD-1688 is covered by a 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. This is the plastic tag one gets with a watch. This is the owner's instruction manual, and it also details the terms and conditions of the 12-month international guarantee. So although basic, it does suffice in explaining the operation of the movement used in the watch, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. And lastly, this is the microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, with regards to the specification of the watch itself, this is the Pagani Design PD-1688, and as you can see, it is clearly an homage to the Omega Seamaster Aqua-Terra. It does that very well because it has very similar proportions to the Aqua-Terra, 40mm case diameter. It has a lug-to-lug measurement of 47.6mm. It has 11.9mm thickness, and the lug width is 20mm. The bracelet is straight from the lugs down to the 2-button push-to-point clasp, and as you can see, the clasp is signed with the Pagani Design emblem to a good standard, beautifully engraved. 2 hidden triggers to the 2-button push-to-point clasp. Now, I understand that Pagani Design have previously received criticism for the quality of the bracelet and also the quality of the 2-button push-to-point clasp. So firstly, let's look at the deploying clasp. Good firm resistance to the 2-button push triggers. The right hand portion opens with no problems and the left hand portion opens with no problems. So I'm pleased to report that Pagani Design have addressed the criticism from collectors that have purchased this piece previously, and they have improved the quality of the bracelet and also the quality of the 2-button push deploying clasp. Mirror polish to the top side, underside and flanks, and as you can see, it is finished to a good standard. So no criticisms whatsoever with regards to the execution of the 2-button push deployment. It works perfectly. Now, with regards to specifications of the rest of the piece, dome sapphire crystal. The negative is there is no AR coating on the underside, and it is a highly reflective piece with lots of glare. The blue applied indices and also blue arrow hands, which are in the Omega broad arrow style, are highly reflective, although they do contrast very well with this silver textured dial, and I do like the horizontal lines of the textured dial as per the Omega Aqua-Terra, which this is an homage to. It does add interest to the dial, so it's clearly legible, good symmetry, but it is highly reflective due to the metallic finish of the silver textured dial. So it would benefit from the added enhancement of AR coating, but having said that, the domed sapphire crystal is absolutely beautiful to look at. I love the way the lip of the crystal projects above the mirror polished bezel. It does look very pleasing. The flanks are brushed into a satin finish to a flawless standard, and I like the large Omega style chamfers which are machined to the tops of the lugs, and they mark the transition between the inner lugs and the outer flanks. So they've done a good job on all 4 bevels. They've machined the chamfers very well and they've mirror polished them to a flawless standard. Screw down crown, which is knurled finish and signed with the Pagani Design emblem, embossed to a very high standard, and it provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance, as one would expect. So let's test the crown action. Silky smooth, minimal resistance to unscrew it, and it has the characteristic pop of the Seiko NH35A automatic. It pushes out the winding stem and crown when one unscrews it fully. So in the first position, it's the manual wind position. The NH35A has manual winding and also hacking, which are useful complications, and one can gradually feel the tension in the mainspring building up as one manually winds it to its maximum 40 hours. Pulling it out to the first click is the quick set date complication. Rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the date complication using the quick set complication, as you can see, and I'm pleased to report the quick set date works as one would expect. Pulling it out to the final click position, it hacks the movement. As you can see, the second hand has stopped, it's now hacked, and we can set the time setting position. So silky smooth action, both clockwise and anti-clockwise from the NH35A, as one would expect. Pushing it back in restarts the movement. As you can see, the second hand now begins to sweep again around the dial. So let's test the crown action, screwing it back down. Good firm resistance. I like the spring-loaded action of the NH35A, which is a characteristic of the movement, but no problems whatsoever between the internal thread of the solid stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. They mesh and interface perfectly. Good to get a screw down crown on a daily wear piece with 100 meters of water resistance, and it screws down with no problems whatsoever. Very well executed crown, and Pagani Design deserve full credit for it. I like the mirror polished bezel, which is finished to a high standard, no imperfections whatsoever, and it also complements the mirror polished centre links in the bracelet, brushed satin finish to the outer links and also the flanks. I'm pleased to see they have used screw pins rather than push pins, which would have been a cost-cutting measure. And bearing in mind that this is a low-tier price point piece at only $122 US, one would expect push pins at this price point, so it is nice to see screw pins. And I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report it does in fact fit my 8-inch wrist, but however it is a tight fit. So I would say to you, if you're a collector with an 8-inch wrist, you are going to need some additional links in the bracelet for comfort. But however, as you can see, it just fits my 8-inch wrist with all the links in the bracelet. The deployment clasp works well, good positive click to it when one closes both the left and right hand portions. And as you can see, the 40mm case gives an excellent snug fit to the wrist. 47.6mm lug to lug measurement is very close to perfection. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot for all wrist sizes, regardless of whether you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist or a 7 to 8-inch wrist respectively. So at 47.6 it is very close to perfection, which is 48mm. Pagani Design have got the proportions of the head of the piece and the bracelet done to perfection. 20mm is the correct lug width for a 40mm head of the piece. It's relatively low profile despite having a domed sapphire crystal. It's only 11.9mm thick, and that is very impressive for a Seiko NH35A automatic piece. To get the thickness under 13mm down to only 11.9 is very good, and they deserve full credit for that. With regards to the heft, it's only 141 grams, which again is very impressive. For a 40mm piece, I would expect the heft of the piece to be circa 150 grams, which is comfortable, but it does give good wrist presence and heft. So at 141 grams, it's a very comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. And as you can see, it is very aesthetically pleasing. Beautiful luster to the brushed satin finish and the mirror polished centre links. So very well executed. Now I really like the blued applied indices and also the blued broad arrow hands. They really do work very well. They're in the classic Amiga Aqua-Terra style, and as this is an homage to the Aqua-Terra, it's done very well. The proportions of the hands and the indices match very well. They've also made the correct decision by citing the date complication at 3, and the white date wheel with black Arabic numerals is clearly legible. I like the attention to detail with the silver applied Pagani Design emblem at 12. It adds interest to the dial, and it's just a very good looking piece to wear, very comfortable, outstanding feel good factor. So 100 meters of water resistance, as one would expect, and it is a very comfortable piece to wear thanks to the screw down exhibition case back, which I'll show you. So stainless steel screw down exhibition case back, center section is glazed with mineral crystal. I like the concentric brushed satin finishing to it, and it is beautifully engraved. The circumference of the screw down exhibition case back is mirror polished for contrast, and they deserve full credit because this is something that Pagani Design do very well. The quality of their screw down exhibition case backs really is outstanding. It's also low profile, and it helps to get the overall thickness of the piece down to only 11.9mm, and that really is impressive because it's something that other brands at this price point can't do. They're often in excess of 13mm, so to get a piece that is only 11.9mm thick with an exhibition case back and with a domed sapphire crystal, as you can see, is very impressive. I like the fact it is low profile because it does enhance the comfort. Now, with regards to the movement used, it uses the Seiko NH35A, which you are all familiar with. It has hand binding and hacking. It's made in Japan, 24 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable, and it has a stated accuracy of -20 to +40 seconds per day. I'm pleased to report that this one is regulated very well to +10 seconds per day, which is well within those limits and perfectly acceptable. Right, so let's do a loom test and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to its absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to its absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. It clearly uses C3 Luminova. Now, Pagani Design could improve upon this by using C3 Super Luminova rather than Luminova, and that would mean that the loom glows brighter and glows for a longer length of time. But having said that, one has to expect some cost-cutting measures at only $122 to make production of this piece and retailing it at that low price viable. I think the loom performance is acceptable. The applied indices have good loom plots. However, I think there is room for improvement on the broad arrow style hands. They could be increased in proportion, and therefore that would allow for greater area of loom plots and several layers of C3 Luminova to be applied. So although one can differentiate between the hour hand and the minute hand and also the second hand, really there is a lack of loom, and I think there is room for improvement on the hands. But however, the indices are performing well. The loom is glowing brightly and it's continuing to glow for an acceptable length of time. So I think the loom is okay. Right, so lastly I will summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, $122. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value for $122. The sapphire crystal is very aesthetically pleasing. To get a Seiko NH35A automatic powered piece is the correct choice, and really the quality of the case finishing and bracelet finishing throughout are done to a very good standard, bearing in mind the low tier price point of the piece. As I've discussed previously, Pagani Design received criticism for the quality of the bracelet and the 2-button push to point clasp, but I'm pleased to report they have addressed this, and this PD-1688, which is the latest version, has had some improvements to the bracelet and the 2-button push clasp, and I can report that they are satisfactory in terms of their execution. So the quality of the finishing is good throughout, and I'm absolutely pleased with it. I think it is a very well executed homage to the Omega Aqua-Terra. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani Design PD-1688. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.